UFC Burns Malott, Fight Night Winnipeg tomorrow. Actually today because it's 12 in the morning. But I just couldn't help myself. I had to make these fights super late because I was too excited. I was just too excited. I couldn't. A lot of tough fights. We got Gilbert Burns on this card. We got Mike Malott. We got Jourdain Kyler Phillips. And this is probably the fight. This is like I don't know half of these people. I'm a new fan. My first UFC event I ever watched was, I want to say, like solo. That wasn't a pay per view. Was UFC Fight Night Neil Magny Carlos Prates. I don't know half of these people. I don't know half of these people. Heavy, heavy. Like I had to do research, dude. I had to do. Like I was like, who are these people? But we found out. We found out. And now I'm gonna make predictions. Really good pick rate last time. Not really. I went 6-5. But I had a Paulo Costa underdog pick, so that was nice. That was fun. Anyways, I'm gonna pick. First up, the whole card. I'm gonna predict Jamie Siraj versus John Yanis. I'm gonna go with Jamie Siraj. I trust the hype. He's a bantamweight. John Yanis used to be a featherweight. Now he's moving down to bantamweight. Whereas, you know, Jamie Siraj, he is 14-3, not the best looking record, but John Ennis is 9-4. Hasn't won too much. Hasn't he debuted in the UFC in his last fight, and he got subbed out by Austin Bashi. And honestly, Austin Bashi's decent. He's pretty good, but subbed out. He just hasn't beat the best competition. 9-4. I don't know how he's in the UFC. His last couple wins are 4-4, 4-3, 3-1. Jamie Siraj, a guy who has a little bit of experience, even though they're the same age. Same age, they're both 31, but a little bit taller. He does have a legendary 0-inch reach. So we don't know what he's working with. But he's coming off of, that win, the Donnie Manto submission, a Donnie Manto submission in where's that? BFL? Where's that? BFL. Yeah. He lost to Diego Brado, but that's not that bad at all. Will kick and punches, not the best look, but Diego Brado, he's insane on the regional scene. He's just taking people out left and right, 29-22. He's the Canadian guy. This is kind of his hometown hero fight. I'm gonna pick him to win. I'm gonna pick him to win by a round two submission. I think Giannis just doesn't have the fundamentals in grappling like it, and I think Jamie Siraj can take advantage of it. He may be losing on the feet, but I think he can get that moment of a submission. He just needs one moment. John Yanis, I don't think he has the power to put Jamie Siraj out cold, so he's going to have to stay pretty safe throughout 3 rounds. And I think Jamie Siraj can get a submission within that. So I'm going to say Jamie Siraj by round 2 submission. All right? Intense, intense, intense stuff. But moving up, John Castaneda, Mark Volodin. Now, this height is not a fib. It's not trickery. He is 5'3", and this is at 139 pounds. John Castaneda, used to be a featherweight, now moved down to bantamweight. John Castaneda's kind of been around featherweight, been around bantamweight, a little back and forth. He went up to featherweight to fight. What's his name? Chris Gutierrez, who's decent. Chris Gutierrez, lost a split decision. Lost to Daniel Marcos, but Daniel Marcos is really good. Lost to Daniel Santos, TKO'd by him a couple years ago. But if you're Asian, or Moen Gafrov's a pretty good win. He's moved down to bantamweight. He couldn't make weight. It's a catch weight at 139. And Mark Volodin, he does have that flyweight skill because he is just a flyweight. I don't know why he's fighting at bantamweight. He's 5'3". He's 5'3". How are you making 135 pounds? You're 5'3", pal. I don't know. He is outclassed by 6 inches in reach. They have the same leg reach, which is insane. I'm going to go John Castaneda by decision. Bit of the underdog pick. Actually, he's the favorite, but everyone on Tapology. So he's a minus 125 slight favorite, but on Tapology, 65% of people are choosing Mark Volodin by KO too. I just think when you're that short and you're going against a guy who, He's not the tallest bantamweight ever. 5'6" to 5'3", but with a 6-inch reach advantage and that 3-inch height advantage too, I just think it's going to be hard for Mark Voladin to get that KO blow. John Castaneda's got experience. I think he's just going to be low output on the outside, low kicks, tapping jabs, just kind of winning a very boring decision over Mark Voladin is what I think is going to happen. So I'm going to go with John Castaneda, maybe like a 29-28. I could even see split decision. I could even see it. When I called out the Dakota Hope Kai Kamaka split decision, that was dead on. So let's say 29-28 split decision for John Castaneda with him winning rounds 1 and 3. I think he may get caught in the second and he'll survive. He'll, get dropped or something or wobbled and he has to survive the second. Because he did get caught by Chris Gutierrez in round 1 or 2. I think it was round 1. So you know what? Split decision, getting caught in round 1, and then he'll win rounds 2 and 3. And he'll make it boring. Classic. So yeah, John Castaneda, split decision win, winning rounds 2 and 3. Moving up. 2 women's fights back to back. I mean, you love to see it. You love to see it. J.J. Aldrich versus Jamie Lynn Horth. I think J.J. Aldrich is the Canadian in this scenario. It's hard to tell these days. A little bit alien-like. No, Jamie Lynn Horth is the Canadian and J.J. Aldrich is the American. 14-7 versus 9-2. Both coming off of wins. Jamie Lynn Horth has that bit of a height advantage. Reach disadvantage somehow, but a leg reach advantage. I'm going to go with Jamie Lynn Horth. She's coming off of a pretty nasty KO over Teresa Belita. Not the best. She's like... But J.J. Aldrich is just win-lose. Lost to Veronica Hardy. I think so did Jamie Lynn Horth 2 years ago, but J.J. Aldrich is losing to Veronica Hardy a year ago. And, Jamie Lynn Horth went to a split decision with Veronica Hardy. J.J. Aldrich got 30-27 or whatever, 29-28. I don't remember. It's WMA. No one cares. But, Jamie Lynn Horth, lost to Miranda Maverick and Veronica Hardy in her last 5. But, decision over Vanessa Donopoulos, Ivana Petrovic, split decision. But, Monte De La Rosa decision. Nai Lying decision. Angela Lee decision. I'm just going to have to go with Jamie Lynn Horth. I think the Canadian judges, if it's close, they're going to give it to Jamie Lynn Horth. She's a little bit more physical. She does have that reach disadvantage, but she can do some snappy low kicks at range. And women fighters don't use their reach. They don't use their reach advantage. So I'm going to trust Jamie Lynn Horth to get a win over J.J. Aldrich. It's going to be 30-27 when it shouldn't be. You know what I'm saying? I think it's going to be 29-28, pretty unanimously. It's going to be, there's going to be some swing rounds on who you don't know won that round, and there's just going to be one judge with a 30-27 for Jamie Lynn Horth. That makes no sense, and he just gave her a 30-27. So yeah, Jamie Lynn Horth by decision. Not split. Melissa Cronin, Daria Zelenikova. Man, 2 WMA fights back to back. I'm gonna go with a Cronin decision. She's Canadian again. Slight favorite, lost to Lana Santos, not the best luck. Tainara Lisboa, though, KO'd her. Ashley Dean KO'd her. Cathara Leonard KO'd her. Lost to Jacqueline Cavalcanti, but, she's doing decent in the UFC. She lost to Jacqueline Cavalcanti 2 years ago in the LFA. Whereas, Daria Zelenikova, she's 5 years younger. Melissa Cronin's 35. But Daria Zelenikova, same height, same reach. A little bit reach advantage, a little bit leg reach advantage. Melissa Cronin's Canadian. Oh, I forgot I can check right here. Canadian and Russian. Oh, this is tough. I kind of want to go with Daria Zelenikova. She's only lost to Aylin Perez by submission and Melissa Mullins KO, which is not the best. Not the best. And then she lost to Melissa Mullins by KO on Aries 3 years ago, and then, she beats her by decision now. But it's Canadian. I'm going to go with Daria Zelenikova by decision. I'm gonna go with that. She looked decent in her last fight. Melissa Croden, coming off a loss. It's just the fact that she lost to Lana Santos. I don't know. Daria Zelenikova has a better record. She has 3 more wins too, but she's from Russia. But she's got a reach disadvantage. This is hard, dude. Picking WMMA is like a coin flip, but it's like a coin flip on steroids. Cause like when you like sometimes you'll know it'll be heads, and then like randomly there's like no heads on that coin. Like you're flipping a coin every single day. Like, all right, this one's gonna be like you've got that coin down. All right, heads. Bam, it's heads. All right, this one's gonna be heads again. Heads. All right, tails. Yep, it's tails. And then one day you flip that coin with WMMA, and there's not heads or tails on it. It's like star and stripes is on that coin. And all of a sudden you're like, what the heck, dude? That's what predicting WMMA feels like. Um, I'm gonna go with Daria Zelenikova. She just looks a little bit more into the game than Melissa Croden. Melissa Croden, she's Canadian though. Are the judges gonna give it to her? No, I think Jamie Lynn Horth is gonna use all the Canadian powers for this card. But Melissa Croden is a better looking than Jamie Lynn Horth. But Daria Zelenikova is decent looking. She looks weird though. But Melissa Croden kind of looks like a man. Man. I'm just gonna say Daria Zelenikova by decision. And then if it doesn't happen, guess what, dude? It doesn't happen. Tanner Bosner, Gokhan Sarkadam. Sarikam. Gokhan Sarikam. Tanner Bosner, Canadian. He's beaten the legendary, whoever that guy is that Ngannou's facing, on the Netflix card. I forgot who it was. Anyways, knocked out the legendary OSP Open St. Peru. Lost to Ricardo Nascimento. Ion Cutelaba KO'd him in the first, but that's Ion Cutelaba, dude. This is Ion Cutelaba. That was at light heavyweight. This heavyweight. Does Gokhan Sakram have the kind of... He's older, by the way. Debuting in the UFC, and he's older. Tanner Bosner. So he's in the UFC. He got cut for one fight. KO'd a guy on the regional scene at UAE Warriors, and then now he's back in. He's back in the mix. Tanner Bosner. They just couldn't have that. The heavyweight scene wasn't the same without Tanner Bosner, so they had to pull him back in from the regional scene. And now he's against Gokhan Sakram. And I think he can get the win, dude. Is it bad that I think he can get the win? 79% of people are picking Sakram on Tapology. Sakram is a -145 favorite. But I kind of want to pick Tanner Bosner, dude. I can't find any of Gokhan Sakram's Sarikam, Gokhan Sarikam, any of his any of his fights online. Can't find any. So I'm going to go with the guy who's got more experience. He's a little bit younger. Got a little bit more pop in his shots from the looks of it. He's Canadian. Leg reach disadvantage, but I don't care. I just don't think Gokhan Sarikam is on the same level as an Ion Cutelaba at light heavyweight. You know what I'm saying? Ion Cutelaba was able to put this guy out in round one. I don't think Gokhan Sarikam will be able to do it. I think Tanner Bosner will win with some low kicks, crispy boxing, and win a boring decision. Boom. Boom, boom, boom. Tanner Bosner by decision or late rounds KO, but probably decision. Probably decision. So I'm going to go with Tanner Bosner. Underdog, pal. I know. You didn't expect it. Now, moving up. Robert Valentin. Didn't mean to click on you, pal. Sorry if I jump scared you. Robert Valentin versus Julien LeBlanc. There we go. Julien LeBlanc versus Robert Valentin. Now, Robert Valentin sucks. Got KO'd by Ryan Loder via grappling. His record just overall is not that good, dude. Not that good. Split decision loss to Taurus Finney. just because he was retarded and didn't do anything. And then Ateba Gutierrez knocked him out, but he looked really bad in that because Ateba Gutierrez was beating him up, and then he like ushered Ateba Gutierrez on, and then got flatline KO'd. And then even his wins, 15, 25, and 1. The Jourdain Dodd was on his submission to strikes, is his last win. And then Samuel Celeste, 11 and 3, rear naked choke. Whereas Julian LeBlanc, 6 and 9, not the best rear naked choke. Darian Weeks, 9 and 3, 9 and 4, 5 and 4, 6 and 4. He's got momentum, a little bit older, a little bit same height. But reach disadvantage though. Do I go Robert Valentin? Robert Valentin sucks though. Like reach advantage for Julian LeBlanc. 63% of people are picking him on Tapology. He is the slight underdog. See, I have Julian LeBlanc by decision. But look at that compared to that. You know what I'm saying? Like Robert Valentin looks like a guy who, like an MMA fighter. Julian LeBlanc looks like a guy in a tire shop. You know what I'm saying? Like he looks like your mechanic at the tire shop that you're not really too sure. Like he may do like jujitsu on the side, but you think you could probably take him. You probably could take this guy. Is what Julian LeBlanc has given me. Robert Valentin, maybe you see this guy in like the gym, and he's kind of scary because he's like grunting. He's like doing 30-pound weights and he's still grunting. You know what I'm saying? Like that kind of crazy. But dude, I'm gonna have to just off the looks test, dude. I have to choose Robert Valentin, but he lost to Ryan Loder, and Ryan Loder sucks. Because Azamat Bakoyev sucks. You know what I'm saying? Like this kind of, if Azamat Bakoyev beat Tresean Gore, then I could say, it wasn't that bad. But Robert Valentin got shut down by Ryan Loder, who grappled him into a TKO loss on the floor. Dude. Mm. Mm-mm. Mm-mm. What do you guys think? Who should I pick? What are we thinking? What are we thinking? Robert Valentin. All right, we're picking Robert Valentin, dude, by decision. I could see KO. The thing is, if it's Robert Valentin, it's better. It's better to be by KO. It's better for it to be by KO if it's going to be Robert Valentin. When does... Let me do some research real quick. When does... Julian LeBlanc is 10 and 2. He has 2 losses via decision. He's never been knocked out. 4 wins by TKO, 4 wins by submission. He's coming off for rear naked TKO, lost to Joel Bellman and Damien LaPlus. Oh, yeah. I just can't. Robert Valentin poses no threat. I can't. I'm sorry. I want to pick Robert Valentin because he's based. But I have to pick Julian LeBlanc. Even though it looks like he can arm a fly, and it looks like he should be on like a commercial. Julian LeBlanc is like a dad in like a Pixar movie. That's who Julian LeBlanc looks like. If you were to draw Julian LeBlanc, he'd be a dad in a Pixar movie. While Robert Valentin's probably like the evil villain's like sidekick or something like that. But I have to choose Julian LeBlanc. He's just shown some promise, whereas Robert Valentin recently has shown nothing. Now, of course, it's against the legendary Ateba Gutierrez, Taurus Finney, but the Ryan Loder loss does not look good. So I think Julian LeBlanc will get this done. He may even like submit or TKO Robert Valentin on the floor. He's on a 3-fight losing streak, dude. Already, he's 10 and 6. It's just not a good record to have. 10 and 6, 11 and 6. They gave one of his Ultimate Fighters, I guess. Like he was basically like the second place in the Ultimate Fighter. I don't know if I rate that though. I barely rate the Ultimate Fighter winners now, Besides Joseph Morales, my boy. But Alibi Idris was the second place man, and he kind of sucks. So I'm going to go with Julian LeBlanc by decision. Moving up, Denis Bajukha versus Mauricio Barboza. Denis Bajukha, dude. 5'9" to 5'6". He was at 155. He's moving down to featherweight. 78.5 to 39 to 38. 12-5 to 17-2. I'm gonna just have to go with Mauricio Barboza. His only loss is Gabriel Santos, who's the guy who's going on a run in the UFC a little bit right now. Denis Bajukha, Francis Marshall, split decision with him's not that bad. Connor Matthews KO, Jamal Emmers loss, Sean Woodson loss, Damon Wilson, Felipe Oliveira. I'm just gonna have to go off of the Mauricio Barboza kind of hype. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna have to go off of that. Because Denis Bajukha, the Francis Marshall split decision was really good, but Mauricio Barboza is 17-2. He's a little bit more dangerous, a little bit shorter, but he is a featherweight. Denis Bajukha is moving down to featherweight, and sometimes you just can't trust that. Sometimes you just really can't trust it. Do I trust a Denis Bajukha more than I trust Mauricio Barboza? Let me just watch a regional fight on this real quick. He's gonna KO him quick. I just don't know, dude.
Work on his jab.
Mauricio
keep doing what he's doing.
Barboza,
It was interesting to hear Marcio
he's just more of a threat than Denis Bajukha. Denis Bajukha, like I said, the Francis Marshall decision.
I did my job. So
I'll take a Francis Marshall had that close split decision with Marion Santos, so it's kind of like
extra money.
It's like, how well do you rate like this kind of MMA math that we're doing to get to Denis Bajukha being good?
For his left hook.
Oh.
Do I pick him? He's a plus 360 underdog.
And
got head kicked by Gabriel Santos, but Gabriel Santos is very good.
I want to avoid that, use movement, angles, and work behind my jab.
I'm going to have to pick
Look for him to use
Mauricio Bajukha. I'm just going to have to.
The legs of Barboza. Knee after that fight and training, but
none of these feel good. You know what I'm saying? None of these feel good. They don't feel like the right pick.
He goes with everything. Oh, look at that, man.
But I think just Mauricio Barboza has more finishing ability. He has the better record, Bajukha got caught by Jamal Emmers, and Jamal Emmers isn't that good. So I think maybe Barboza can catch him. I'm gonna go with a Mauricio Barboza second round KO. Seems about right. First round, maybe Denis Bajukha's looking good. He's shooting takedowns. He's getting some stuff. He's getting some of his work done. And then Mauricio Barboza just hits him with something nasty in round 2 and puts him away. So yeah, I'm going to go with Mauricio Barboza round 2 KO. Round 2 KO is what I'm going to have to go with. Moving up, Thiago Moises Gage Young. Now Moises is coming off that loss from Jared Flash Gordon. And Jared Gordon's very good. Very, very good. But good enough to KO you in the first. But Gage Young is also pretty bad. Dude. He's the slight favorite. More people are picking Moises. He's the underdog. Thiago Moises should not be the underdog, Gage Young coming off that decision went over Machete. But Moises, decision over Trey Ogden, Mitch Ramirez, leg kick KO, lost to Ludovic Klein recently and KO'd by Benoit Saint-Denis. Gage Young's lost to Quillen Selkill and Evan Elder. And Evan Elder's decent, I'm gonna go with the Gage Young decision. But Gage Young sucks. But I think Tiago Moises, he's 31, has a little bit of a reach advantage, barely. Big of a leg reach advantage, 1909. Gage Young, though, he just looks so bad in is it the Mitropo? No. In the Evan Elder fight. He just didn't throw. But I want Gage Young to win because he said on Twitter he called Winnipeg a dump. So that's pretty funny. So I want Gage Young to win, so you know what? I'm going to pick Gage Young to win by decision. Is the right choice? No. Thiago Moises is a crazy underdog. Honestly, crazy underdog. You should probably bet on Thiago Moises because he's pretty good. Decently good. And Gage Young really hasn't been proven, but not a close fight with Salkild. Salkild did outstrike him and grapple and, have the back on Gage Young a couple times. But I think Gage Young did decently enough against Quillen Salkild where I can kind of trust him against Thiago Moises more than I really should. So I'm going off of kind of blind faith and hope. That's always great. So yeah, Gage Young, decision win. Moving up, Jasmine Jasudavicius Karine Silva. Now, I am just now learning, basically this is just me live learning, that Jasmine Jasudavicius is 37 years old. Karine Silva is 32, but Jasmine Jasudavicius is decent. She's coming off of that KO loss to Manon Fiorot on the Ritter Allen card, which isn't the best look. But Karine Silva lost to Macy Barber, and that's also not a good look. She also lost to Vivian Araujo. She beat Dion Barboza, which isn't decently good loss, or decently good win, but, Jasmine Jasudavicius submitted Jessica Andrade, Manuel Bruno Silva decision, Ariane De Silva decision, or submission, Fatima Klein. The Fatima Klein decision makes me trust her to be able to deal with Karine Silva's striking. I think Jasmine Jasudavicius is going to get that submission. She said she has her own special submission she made up. So you know what? I'm trusting it. A round 2 submission for Jasmine Jasudavicius. Boom. Just because I don't know. I don't really know, but I'm going to have to do it. Moving up. Mandel Nallo. Nope. Jai Herbert, get off my screen. Mandel Nallo versus Jai Herbert. Mandel Nallo, of course, the very hyped up prospect who is 36 years old. 36 years old at lightweight against Jai Herbert, who is 37. Jai Herbert's a little bit taller, a little bit lankier, lower leg reach though. And I think Jai Herbert is going to get this done for a decision. Now, Mandel Nallo is the new Canadian. He's Indian. Dude. I'm not trusting an Indian. You want to trust a half Indian fighter? Dude. He said he's not Indian. You look Indian. You're Indian, pal. I don't trust that chin. I think Jai Herbert, who's gone against some decent competition, split decision loss over Chris Padilla, was his last fight on the Edwards Brady card. Not that bad of a loss at all. I just can't trust Mandel Nallo to be on the same level as a Chris Padilla where he can edge out a decision or, knock him out. Like a crazy knockout. I think Mandel Nallo is too aggressive, and Jai Herbert's pretty good on the counter. I think Jai Herbert's going to do really good in round 1, counter him pretty well. Nallo's going to be very hesitant in round 2, is what I think is going to happen. They're going to have a really boring round 2, where Jai Herbert out leg kicks him maybe at range, and then around 3, Jai Herbert maybe hits him with something big. And I think Jai Herbert will get this done via decision. Yeah, decision for Jai Herbert. He's decent. Jai Herbert's decent. I just can't trust Mandel Nallo. He looks Indian. Jai Herbert, he doesn't look as Indian. So, he's lanky too, very tall. They're both really tall, 6 foot and 6'1", and they're at 155 pounds. But 3-inch reach advantage or 2-inch reach advantage. I think Jai Herbert can just pop a jab, stay on the outside if he needs to. And then, like I said, Mandel Nallo's really heavy low kick, heavy body kick, front kick to the body. I think Jai Herbert's going to be ready for that and have something nasty on the counter for that, and not let Nallo get away with doing too much investment shots with no return from Herbert. So Jai Herbert decision, I could see him maybe catching Nallo in like the first something crazy, but I'm just gonna stick with the Jai Herbert decision. Moving up, feature fight, co-main actually, Kyler Phillips, Charles Jourdain. I'm gonna go Charles Jourdain. Kyler Phillips he's lost to Rob Font and Vinicius Oliveira, which are not good looks. Not good looks. He is pretty dangerous in round one. Pretty dangerous. I just don't think he's shown enough consistency in getting that round one KO against decent level fighters, where I can say he's gonna put Jourdain out in one. I think Jourdain's shown that he's kind of that level. Submitting David Grant, a flying into a guillotine, and then the fight before that he got a guillotine, took down Gene Silva a bunch of times, and he got KO'd by Gene Silva, but who doesn't, besides Bryce Mitchell, the GOAT. I think Charles Jourdain's shown a level at his new weight class at 135. He's making it. He's decently big for the division, 5'9". He's got to reach disadvantage somehow. But like I said, Kyler Phillips just isn't really there. He isn't really there. I can't trust him. Coming off 2 fight losses, he's Pedro Munoz decision. Howney Barcelos. You know what? That Howney Barcelos one is aging great. Oh my goodness, dude. But Charles Jourdain has lost to Gene Silva in a split decision to Sean Woodson. I think Charles Jourdain is going to make it close if he can, and if not, I think he'll get that submission over Kyler Phillips. I think he'd get a submission. I think he'll get like a late round 3 submission, if not a decision. But I think he could probably get a submission in like the third or second, late second, early third. So I'm going to go round 3 submission for Charles Jourdain. Boom. Legendary stuff. Somehow this is a co-main. Moving up, main event. Gilbert Burns Mike Malott. When I tell you I wanted to pick Gilbert Burns, I really did. I really was going to pick Gilbert Burns. Like 30 minutes ago, I was probably going to pick Gilbert Burns, but then I look on Twitter, and the green light test showed for Mike Malott. And it's 100% pick rate, like green line test. So I'm just going to keep on trusting it until it fails. So I'm going to have to go with a Mike Malott. Now, I will say, later rounds are going to be interesting to see how he handles with his cardio. But I think ever since that Neil Magny loss, he's kind of rebuilt himself for the better. Lost to Neil Magny, but since then, the Trevor Giles decision, the Radke KO, really impressive looking back at it. And then, the Kevin Holland decision. Over 5 is, like I said, is what's going to make this interesting. But I don't think Gilbert Burns just has it anymore, dude. 4-fight losing streak. He is losing to crazy names. Bilal, JDM, Sean Brady, and Michael Morales are the guys he's lost to 4 in a row. It's like, I don't blame him for losing those guys, but he's 37, 39. Oh my goodness, he's 39. Mike Malott's 34. 6'1" to 5'11", has a reach advantage, has a leg reach advantage, has the power advantage. Gilbert Burns just... It'd be funny if he submits Mike Malott, but I don't think he will, dude. I don't think he will. He made weight 171 or something. Why do I want to pick Gilbert Burns right now? He's like looking at me trying to... Dude, Gilbert Burns is trying to force mind trick me, Jedi mind trick me into picking him. Do I cast the green line test away and trust him? He's a plus 230 underdog. I just don't think Burns has shown me that he can grit down. I'm just going to trust in Mike Malott, dude. He's looked decent, decent. Lost to Neil Magny, had his kind of mandatory loss, and now he's kind of back in it. He's Canadian. Like I said, later rounds, rounds 4 and 5, championship rounds, are going to be interesting. But I don't think Gilbert Burns is the type of guy to push anymore. If he does, I could see him getting a late round submission, a late round TKO, something like that. But I think Mike Malott's worked a lot on this cardio. That's what was shown out in round in that Neil Magny fight, and I don't think he's going to spend all of his energy trying to get Gilbert Burns out quick. That's more of a Michael Morales thing where he can do that because he's so athletically gifted. Mike Malott, he's got some power on him. I think he will be swinging some heat early, but I think if by round one he hasn't landed that shot, he's gonna go, all right, I'm not landing this. I'm gonna take it easy. I'm not gonna swing with everything I got and run out of energy. So I'm gonna go with Mike Malott by decision. Actually, I think he'll actually get a decision, playing it safe, not really risking it too much. I don't think Burns is gonna do too much on the ground. Malott, he was taking down JDM pretty well though, controlling JDM well. But that was 2 years ago, dude. That's the thing. Burns did really good against JDM 2 years ago, and like Sean Brady ragdolled him. Bilal did Bilal stuff and decisioned him. His last one was against Masvidal 3 years ago. I just can't, in good faith and good conscience, pick a Gilbert Burns who's on a 4-fight losing streak, who hasn't really shown that kind of heart and grit that I need him to have to kind of bite down in those later rounds and get it through. I just don't see that happening. I think Mike Malott will get it done via decision. Like I said, though, the grappling and the later rounds are going to be interesting, in my opinion. But I can't trust Gilbert Burns off of that alone. He needs to show me something. And so far, he's shown me nothing. I picked Moicano to beat Duncan. I normally am pretty good about picking these older guys to kind of show these younger guys what's up still. I'm not getting that feeling with this. I am getting that feeling. But Moicano at least showed me something with that Beneil Dariush, or with that Benoit Saint Denis KO. Gamrot showed me with that Ludovic Klein decision win. Gilbert Burns has shown me nothing. He showed me nothing. Like I said, I just can't pick him. I can't pick him. So I'm going to go with Mike Malott to win this main event by decision. Sorry this is so late. Like I said, I was just so glad this fight was happening. I was so happy that Mike Malott Gilbert Burns is happening after UFC 327. That I couldn't handle myself. I just had to put this off to the last second. But I'll be able to listen to this back while I work tomorrow. I won't be streaming the fight. I won't be doing a fight companion because I have family over and we're gonna watch 3 women's fights. Let's go. Gonna watch 3 WMA fights tomorrow. I mean, what's better than that? And then we're gonna watch a decently fun co-main and then maybe a kind of boring main event. You know what I'm saying? Let me guess who would be fight of the night. I think this could be fight of the night, but if not, I think this could be kind of a fight of the night, kind of a brawl. Or maybe John Castaneda, Mark Volodin is a brawl. I don't think so. I think the fight of the night's probably going to be either Mandel Nallo Jai, Kyler Phillips, Charles Jourdain, or Thiago Moises Gage Young. But yeah, that's the picks for Burns Malott. I don't feel confident in these picks. I feel like I'm probably gonna get all these wrong, but I'm guaranteed to get one right. The green line test was in Mallott's favor, so if I get that wrong, dude, if that's the one I get wrong, then so be it. Yeah, don't be funny, make some money, buy the numbers. I will see y'all. I guess tomorrow I'll be doing that card recap, but I'm gonna make a video Monday. I kind of like doing it in between the fight night predictions and recaps. So yeah, don't be funny, make some money, buy the numbers. I'm gonna wait for 39 minutes because I like a nice even minute count. Stop it at